Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Since we are already sitting, and we just got a message that former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert will come at 5, and since you are so, quiet, so I will say a few words as if I was invited to speak also about trust. So I will not improvise because, I have my line about it. So I would like to share with you some ideas, and then we'll give Professor Jakobson the podium. What we would like to aim at is that former Prime Minister Olmert will hear also Dan, because Dan will, in a way, conclude the 2 days that most of you participated. So, for those who don't know me, my name is Ron Pundak, and I actually am a graduate of this university at the BA, and Asher, who is not here anymore, is here, was even one of my teachers, which I loved very much. And I made my PhD about Jordan at the University of London. But the last 20 years I'm investing in the Israeli-Palestinian issue, and as most of you are aware of, I was one of the 2 Israelis to initiate the Oslo process, and I took part in the negotiations, obviously at the first unofficial part and then the official part until the signing at the South Lawn of the White House. And since then, I've been involved in many activities, specifically on track 2 of promoting the different, what we call core issues, both in issue-based. For example, with Faisal Husseini, we had a dialogue, a kind of a track 2 on Jerusalem, with Nabil Shat on refugees, and with others on water. Now there's a group about economy that I was founding and part of the leading team, as well as what eventually was and still is, I believe, have been the groundwork for the comprehensive framework, which is what was later known as either the Stockholm document or the Beilin Abu Mazen document, which was 2 representatives of Abu Mazen and 2 of Yossi Beilin, and I was again one of the 2. And basically, we drafted the first map with swaps. We invented the idea of what we call Chalutza swap, and also the first delineation of a possible border between Israel and the Palestinians in Jerusalem, separating Jerusalem within these 2 ideas, the 2 capitals for 2 states. And in a way, I would say Clinton parameters as well as the Geneva Initiative document are based on these things. So I would like to bring to you some knowledge, and clearly it is based on my private knowledge. It means nothing, definitely not theoretical. There are people here who are much more well-versed and knowledgeable about the theory of negotiations. But I would like to share with you some insights from these 20 years of experience, both the formal and informal dialogue. I would like, first of all, to say that there is a very clear distinction between trust between nations, constituencies, and between individuals. And when I'm speaking of individuals, I'm not speaking about, us individuals and them individuals. I'm speaking about individuals who are in the negotiation room and are negotiating on behalf of us. And I would like to emphasize the fact that at the end of the day, and you'll see in a few minutes a prime minister, at the end of the day, he is not at all different than us. And we're speaking about people, about individuals, about human beings, with all, the good sides and bad sides of human beings. And we know, psychologically speaking, and Dan is more expert about this, as well as Danny here, psychology plays a lot in the rapprochement and chemistry and dialogue between people. And similarly, when you are negotiating, it has a huge importance. Because once you are entering into a negotiation, you think as if you are representing a nation, history, 4,000 years of history. But once you are starting to negotiate, you are becoming a human being. And you forget the fact that you are prime minister and negotiator on behalf of 6 million Jews or something. But you're coming you, yourself, versus he himself or her, herself. And here comes the issue of what we call the chemistry between the individuals. And when we started our negotiations in Oslo, and we knew nothing about what would be the outcome of Oslo, one should understand that Oslo started as a very, very modest process of us, Hirschfeld and myself, with the knowledge of Yossi Beini at the beginning, without the knowledge of Shimon Peres, going to meet a team of the PLO without at all knowing that it will lead to a process which will eventually will become a back channel and will eventually lead to an agreement. And from our point of view, even with this very, very limited idea, the first meeting that we conducted in 3 hours south of Oslo, we invested a lot in building trust with the other side, even that we didn't know that a channel will be created. And I just will give you a few examples that the trust is not only between us as individuals, but also between us as a team. And the trust is also conducting something which will become fundamentals for any future dialogue. And as I said, one small example is that we had the opportunity to sit with the Norwegians or without the Norwegians. Obviously, we choose to sit only us, Israelis and Palestinians. We could sit around a rectangular table or a round table, and we made a calculated choice to sit around a round table to show to ourselves that we are working as a team with two interests, but with one objective. We immediately started to ask questions about who are you, what are you, where are you, from where, personal issues, in order to create this kind of personal bond. And later, as time passed and the channel developed, we, again, both sides, either instinctively but also calculatively, we started to have much more personal relations. And for example, us two, Yair and myself, one was dealing with one and another was dealing with another in order to, again, create this kind of a personal bond. And this helped us to overcome many, many hurdles down the road. Because I'll give you, again, one example, which is, in a way, a problematic example. The Palestinians demanded, obviously, during the negotiations, still at the informal stage, that there will be a very clear message, declaration, paragraph about settlements. And personally, I think we should have added it. But we knew that the Israeli highest echelon, specifically Rabin and Peres, would not accept it. Now, if you remember, in '92, Rabin was very, very adamantly and unequivocally in saying that Israel will not build any more settlements. Now, I must admit that, we had our political doubts, but we were able, because they trusted us, to convince the Palestinians that Rabin is serious in his message. Now here, trust plays a role, although eventually it's a conclusion which is based in many ways on trust, which brought to, from my point of view, a negative result. What I want to say is that through the trust, you can, in a way, influence also substantial issues. Sometime for the worse, like this, and sometime for the good. And I'll give you another good example, that when at the later stages of negotiations, after Uri Savir and Yoel Zinger came in and the channel became a formal channel, and here in brackets I will say that the ability of us to create a very trustworthy and credible channel in which really we believed each other was under a threat, potential threat, when the officials came in. And we were frightened. We didn't know Uri Savir, who was at that time the Director General of the Foreign Ministry. We were frightened to death that somebody will come, rigid, formalistic, representing only the messages of the government, and will in a way ruin totally what we created, which was called the Oslo spirit. Luckily for us, Uri Savir came, and he was, humbly said it, even better than us. From the point of view of creating even higher trust between us and them. The bond that he was able to create between him and Abu Ala was much stronger, and the trust between the two was much bigger than what we were able to achieve in 5 months with Abu Ala. So as I said, later at the negotiations, we had huge problems to the extent that at a certain time the Oslo channel totally broke down. And we departed and said, well, it was nice, it was a nice effort, maybe it will be written in the books of history as a footnote, pity, etc., etc. Then the Norwegians started to move between the two sides and brought us back together. And in that meeting, trust between Savir and Abu Ala allowed them to what we call in negotiations to steal horses together. You can steal horses together only if you trust the other side. Because when you steal horses together, you are in a way moving beyond what was ordered by the respective governments or the respective leaderships. Again, only if the two sides are doing this, and if the two sides, Mr. Olmert, Prime Minister Olmert, please. I'll briefly finish, Ehud, and we'll continue with the session. So what I wanted to emphasize is that the ability of moving sometime beyond what the leaderships are allowing, but clearly with the knowledge of both sides that probably the two leaders will allow it to happen. But it's only possible if you trust the other side that actually neither of the sides will exploit the ability of each side to move even beyond the envelope which was dictated by the leaders. So, for example, that issue and that so to say, breakdown of negotiations was overcome only by the fact that Uri Savir and Abu Ala really trusted each other. They went even out of the room where the team was sitting, and together, jointly, they created a new formula. And obviously later they told us, but the idea was to show the fact that these two gentlemen are moving aside and are doing something which is, so to say, personal and based on the credibility and trust between them, which allowed us to overcome this problem and hurdle. And I believe that without that trust between the two, this would have never been able to happen, even not if a third party would intervene and try to do it. It was based on the personal trust. I'll stop here. Maybe later I will say some few words, but I would like to go back to the session and introduce Professor Dan Jacobson, who is a professor from Tel Aviv University dealing with organizational behavior. Dan will sum up in a few minutes what happened here in the last 2 days, both for us to remember, for people like me who did not participate in all sessions to know what happened, and also for you, Mr. Prime Minister, also to hear what was the issue that was debated here, that maybe it will also direct some of your comments later. Please, Dan.